Are you worried about its future in any way under this government?
Yeah, I think they're sort of vindictive enough to make it very difficult for them. I mean, I think all the governments that I've ever covered have been cross with the BBC. And the Blair one was just, if you remember the Alistair Campbell years, they were incandescent at any criticism of themselves. So that was quite a dangerous time. May, not so much, Brown, whatever. But this lot have got it into their heads that it's part of the culture war, and the BBC is, woke and hopelessly biased. I mean, God, if the BBC is hopelessly biased, then, an 80-seat landslide, I'm not quite sure how that happened then. It shows how ineffective it is, if it is, which I don't believe anyway. But it's, I think it's more dangerous because they wrap it up in a sort of, it's a free market thing. It's a move to the future. It's unfair to have a license fee. Everyone gets their stuff digitally. There's 3, different channels where people can watch, box sets. That hardly, let's be honest, covers, the proms, BBC's choirs, the regional orchestras, all the local news channels, the website. I mean, it's a ridiculous comparison that they use to, what you get out the BBC for that money and what you can get from a streaming service. It is ridiculous, but it makes a lot of headway. And I think they will try and use that to weaken the BBC. And that's bad news, I think. And that's not just because they pay me. If you look at my career, I've essentially worked for anyone who's offering. Spinning Image was where, I worked there on ITV for the first X years, and that was the best paid I've ever been, really, as a writer. And then my early documentaries were all Channel 4, and I've been about. So, and when, I think a defensive Director General of the BBC says there are too many left-wing panel shows, and, that was a bit of a flurry earlier in the year, I just made sure the first couple of Have I Got News For You were about making it clear that we didn't much like being told what to think.
Yeah.
So, I do think it's a bit dangerous, yes.
Yeah.
And, independent news, we keep, God, with so much just nonsense around, I think it's still important to have, trusted news sources.
Yeah, and I won't go too far into this because I do want to ask a few more questions about the eye. But in what way do you think they could weaken the BBC? What do you mean by that?
Well, I suppose that they said they were going to decriminalise not paying the licence fee, and then I suppose there was the threat to have Charles Moore as head of BBC One, or no, it wasn't.
And Paul Dacre.
And Paul Dacre running Ofcom. So I think there was a certain amount of sort of early bravado about, and maybe that's what new governments do. But I mean, I was there when Tebbit was so cross over the BBC's coverage of the Libyan, do you remember that, bombings, that he was just sort of, governments really don't like the BBC, any of them. And I think it's worth remembering that. It isn't just this one. But I feel commercially the pressures are very big on the BBC at the moment, and it's quite easy to say, look at, sorry, I've slightly said, but it's easy to say, why don't you just get everything on Amazon Prime or whatever? And then you think, well, I mean, the BBC's linked up with that academy and they're doing free lessons in the day for kids who are in lockdown. I mean, I don't think Netflix is going to do that. That's still quite useful. Big American streamings, they're not going to put on Paul Whitehouse Goes Fishing. with Bob Mortimer, which is going to be one of my greatest pleasures. The entire lockdown, I don't see them doing it. I don't think we should ignore what we have, because there's a very strident cry of, "Oh, it's the BBC. Let's get rid of it."
Yeah.
Anyway.